We are back at the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast for our post-draft recap. We're going to touch on fantasy football impacts with some of the top picks, mid-round picks, sleepers, look at top rookie landing spots, maybe some veterans whose stock dropped. So we're looking forward to that for this episode. I am joined by my co-host, Nacc. Nacc only today. We miss you, Fab. We will see you next week.
Yes, sir.
Nacc, before we jump into the post-draft recap, really, really important question. 100 men versus one gorilla. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw that little Lions segment on that. I'm kind of torn, because I don't know, 100 humans barehanded. Like like how big is this gorilla? First off, and I don't know, man. That thing has got like survival instincts at its fullest. Like I don't know if 100 men can do it.
No chance. Bare hand, no chance.
That's what I'm saying. Like
At least 20 of them are dying. The other, like another 20 are getting seriously injured. Like you would need,
and the other 60 are running away.
like you would need the toughest SOBs. You would need like Samoans. You would need like, I don't know, the toughest football team possible. And even at that, man, you need like the people from Baltimore, Chicago, like the south side of Chicago, just rabid, crazy individuals to get that done, man.
I don't know. How did this start, by the way? I know I saw like a little, like the Lions. I know the Lions were talking about it. I saw it a bit on McAfee today. And like it was making me laugh. Like some players are like, just get the coach and get some of these old line guys and we got them,
I think people underestimate how strong gorillas are. Like they have big teeth. They're extremely strong.
Yeah.
Like those first 20 guys are just getting punched and like they're getting flipped up like 15 feet. And
that's what I'm saying. Like they're just getting mauled, man.
They'd get mauled. So thankfully that is in Fantasyland. And speaking of Fantasyland, we are going to start with our first segment, top fantasy rookie landing spots. Before we jump in, please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Bush League Huddle. You can find us there. So we'll start at the top. Cam Ward to the Titans. Obviously, this was the consensus number one pick. Titans fill up a very important need. Nacc, do you think Cam is starting from week one? And follow-up question afterwards is, what is his fantasy relevance in 2 QB leagues?
Look, Will Levis did not have a great showing towards the end of the year where he even had a chance to kind of save his starting job per se, and then got seeded from Mason Rudolph on top of it, right? So I don't think he did a great job down the stretch. Now, look, they're already saying that it's going to be a competition in camp. But again, you don't pick someone number one overall to usually sit on the bench. It's super rare, especially at the quarterback position.
They did the same thing with Jaden Daniels, right? Like, hey, like let's not give him anything. Let's just make him earn it. But obviously,
yeah. But I mean, look, not for nothing, Jaden Daniels is a better prospect than Cam Ward, and he only had, I think, Marcus Mariota there, if I'm saying that correctly. So not very much competition. At least Levis has a few years under his belt. Albeit, look, it wasn't pretty, especially like I said last year. I will give Cam Ward the inside track. I'm not gonna go ahead and pencil him, or I'll pencil him in there right now, should I say? I'm not gonna put a definitive on him, but I would say he has the inside track and most likely will start.
I think he's starting for sure. I think it's a good comp with Jaden Daniels because, and even Caleb Williams, if you look at their situations, Daniels had Terry McLaurin, he had Brian Robinson, he had Zach Ertz. Caleb obviously had DJ Moore, Adunze, Keenan Allen, Komet, and even at the running back position, DeAndre Swift. I'm just not excited about what the Titans are giving to Cam Ward, right? Like Calvin Ridley. I know they drafted his wide receiver mate Xavier Restrepo. I think they did some stuff at tight end as well, and they drafted some like more fringe level late round running wide receivers. Uh, and I don't know how much confidence I had in having Brian Callahan as well. At least Jaden Daniels had Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
He had that offensive infrastructure. From a 2 QB perspective, I'm curious to know what you think, but considering my draft strategy, which is, I try to go running back, wide receiver, maybe take a QB later in the draft in 2 QB leagues. I think he has the talent to still be good. I don't know if he's going to have a Jaden Daniels type season, but I'd bank on the talent, the escapability, and we are seeing a lot of rookie QBs have really good seasons as of day one. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, like, and just to go back on your point with the Titans, like we've mentioned it before more than once, it's a very boring team, right? It's very like they're not flashy. They tried to make a couple moves, in the last few years, but ever since they traded AJ Brown and got like the best wide receiver they've had in years out the door, it's kind of been a wide receiver graveyard there. So
Yes,
I
well
kind
said.
of I kind of really agree with you that they didn't really help him like, the Bears did with, you mentioned those other guys. So that's what I'm being, kind of skeptical on the fact of I don't know. I don't even know if I'm even if he starts, which I guess look, we're really likely thinking that he is. I don't see him as more of a QB3 to start the year. I would not be comfortable week one starting Cam Ward as my wide receiver two. I just wouldn't. And like we just mentioned, it's just because of there is no weapons really around him. A
Yeah,
rookie QB.
they just got Tyler Lockett. That was the one I remembered.
Okay, what is he?
Yeah,
33
no,
years
yeah,
old.
hundred
Like
percent,
whatever. Again, another
totally.
boring wide receiver who's gonna kill his career, whatever career he had left, kill it by going to Tennessee. See, DeAndre Hopkins who tried to go there, it didn't work. Julio Jones tried to
They're a
go there, it didn't
graveyard,
work.
man. It's a
It's
graveyard.
just like it's literally where they go to die. So, um, yeah. Look, I really I don't know. It's just not a sexy team. It's not a sexy option anywhere. Like I'm not comfortable. I don't think I'm comfortable besides the running backs who did pretty
Yeah,
decent last year. But
I would.
yeah, for me QB3, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think to start QB3, they drafted, and I don't have much knowledge of these guys. Chimera DK, wide receiver, Florida. Apparently, he's a really fast player. Gunnar Helm, tight end from Texas. So I think as we get closer to training camp, we'll see how those players perform to see if there's any sleepers that might come out of there and might prop up Cam Ward a little bit. We'll move on to the second overall pick, Travis Hunter, in the same division. Obviously, dual threat impact. You trade up as the Jaguars. You trade up for you give up that much draft capital. You expect Hunter to play wide receiver for sure, and I think
Yeah.
you definitely expect him to play cornerback as well. I don't think there's any debate out of that. But Nacc, do you think it's going to be more of a 50-50 split? And how does this, not only his talent, but the fact that he might play some cornerback, impact where you would draft him in fantasy?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting guy on fantasy boards come draft day for sure because of exactly like you mentioned the extent of play that he's going to be on the field. It's not college anymore. This is the NFL. I think the Jaguars have come out and said though that he's going to be predominantly a wide receiver, which is, in my opinion, a good idea, and he is going to be game planned in and he'll see, those 5 to 8 plays, maybe a game on the defensive side. So in terms of tiring him out where he's going to have to take, series off on the offense, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Um, it is a rookie. He's still he's a little bit raw, I think, in my opinion, a little bit. Fantasy wise.
He's getting picked at Fantasy Pros. He's in tier 5, wide receiver 32. He's nestled between
Okay, see that makes sense.
Bush League Huddle favorite Jalen Waddle and another Bush League Huddle favorite Jerry Judy and Calvin Ridley. So 3 of our favorite players that we've all owned recently.
Look, Thomas
Thomas Jr.
Jr.
Yeah,
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. is the bona fide WR1 in Jacksonville, right? So right away, he's going in with at best wide receiver two numbers. So I think where you have him slotted in with those wide receivers, it kind of does make sense to me in that 32. Does he have the upside to maybe push closer to a top 25 finish potentially? Um, but again, I don't know. I want to see how it hampers him technically, like in meetings. You have the defensive meetings, you have the offensive meetings,
yeah,
wide receiver meetings. Like, hey, if the wide receiver meetings and Q and cornerback meetings go on at the same time, like which one is he attending? And
exactly. That's
like it's
exactly
it's
it.
it's just it's so tough to kind of look. It's tough to play two positions. We know we can do it. Again, it was college, so it's a little bit different. It's going to be a lot harder in the NFL. So I think where they have him slotted in right now is where I would be picking him as well. He's gonna go higher than that 1,000,000%,
I
just because
just
of the
because of
hype.
the hype,
Yes, the
exactly.
hype and his
Yeah.
name and Travis Hunter, so he is gonna be picked higher, but I
If we were in an sorry to cut you off, if we were in an IDP league, man, he would. And I'm not asking you to like predict where he would go, but he'd be such a fun player to own. Like to see him play those both directions. If we look at some of the other pass catchers, the high end pass catchers that were taken between Colson Loveland, Ted McMillan, Matthew Golden, who do you find is in the best landing spot out of those three? Between
I
Loveland Bears, McMillan Panthers, and Matthew Golden to the Packers.
I think right off the hop, might not be popular opinion, but I think I'm gonna go Colston Loveland. I feel like he's a poor man's Sam Laporta at this point, but he's a smooth mover and he has great hands.
Yeah.
So in the red zone, he's gonna be, I think, Caleb Williams' favorite target this year. I think he's going to see a lot of targets. Cole Kmet, I think with that his experiment there might be coming to an end. They might play a lot of 13 personnel where they'll have two tight ends on the field at all times, so that could be something. But um,
Yeah,
I think he's going to be like a security blanket for Caleb too.
yeah. The Lions played. They were middle of the pack last year in 12 personnel, but they had one of the best, highest efficiency rates when they were playing in 12 personnel. This was
12,
with Ben.
sorry, I said 13.
Yeah, yeah. This is with Ben Johnson as OC with the Lions. So I think they were effective. I think they'll be very effective. I don't think Cole Kmet was a perfect player.
Mm-mm.
There's a reason why they drafted him. Why they drafted Loveland,
And
Kmet,
high,
and
right?
High, because Kmet, I believe he was a first rounder or a second rounder. He never lived up to the potential, and he had a lot of it coming out. So
Yeah,
I will say quickly, I was really a big fan of Matthew Golden. To me, and we're going to talk a little bit about in the next week's episode, kind of like what does the draft tell us in terms of training camp and next year. But to me, the Packers going against their trend and taking a wide receiver at round one, which is something they never do, it tells you all you need to know about what they think about their current wide receiver core. And I'm willing to buy all the Matthew Golden stock going forward. He fits a need. He has way better hands than anyone on that team. He's a burner and he plays tough with contested catches. So I would say that, him and Jaden Reed are going to feature pretty heavily. And maybe just quickly on Ted McMillan, I'm curious to see how that works. I could kind of see, a big body for Bryce Young because he's a smaller QB.
yeah.
But I think there's a lot of guys on that team. Like Thielen's still there, Leggett. I know that I'm sure they want to get something out of Leggett, second rounder.
Yeah.
Jalen Coker. I know they believe in him. They just signed Hunter Renfro as well.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of guys. We'll have to see on that front.
I
Before we
think,
move,
but
yeah, go
like
ahead.
you sorry to cut you off, but you think like I feel like Matthew Golden becomes like WR1 on that team, like right off the hop. Like I feel like he's the most polished player in that whole group. Like
Yeah,
who's gonna surpass him really?
that like he's the most complete wide receiver on that team.
Yeah.
Fast, good hands, good route runner. All of between Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Dontavius Wicks. If they were one wide receiver, they would be the best wide receiver in the
Yeah,
league,
yeah,
like bar none.
yeah,
And they all just have their own weaknesses. So and they kind of fill that out with Golden. He's a smaller wide receiver, but I'm not too concerned about that.
yeah.
Just before we move on to the next segment, maybe quickly, or not quickly, which running back do you think is in the best landing spot between Genty to the Raiders, Omarion Hampton to the Chargers, and Quinshaw Judkins to the Browns?
Yeah, it's hard not to pick Genty. They didn't have really anyone in that room. I know they signed Raheem Mostert, but he's over the age of 30 and clearly past his prime, injury prone as well. So I think Genty has he's the best all around back out of all of them, I believe, and he has the ability to be a three down back. Great pass catcher as well. So I see him catching a lot of balls. Yeah, I don't know, for him, for sure, I'd pick him first, and then with Judkins, they drafted Samson as well, right? The Browns.
Dylan
So
Sampson,
I feel
yeah.
like there's going to be a lot of they're going to be splitting carries, and I think it's the same thing for Hampton. They're going to be splitting carries a bit with Najee Harris, but I'm sure halfway through the season, Hampton's going to push for likely more touches in that offense, and obviously with Najee just on a 1 year deal, easy to kind of surpass someone.
Yeah, this is a good segue. Our second segment was more around veterans whose stock dropped. So it's a great time to talk about Najee. I thought it was an interesting draft pick for the Chargers because Najee and Omarion Hampton I find very similar. I think Hampton obviously has more juice, but I would have thought maybe they would have taken a running back that would complement Najee a little bit more. Maybe someone who has a bit more speed. If we look at Jalen Warren, now he's gonna lose reps to Kaleb Johnson, we think, in Pittsburgh, Tyrone Tracy Jr. with Cam Scadaboo in New York, and then I think the one that's really weird and is a tough situation is Travis Etienne Jr. and Bashul Tutin in Jacksonville. So you talked a little bit about Harris already. Out of those three veterans, Warren, Tracy, and Etienne, who do you think whose stock dropped the most?
If I had to guess, I think all three of their stocks dropped. To tell you the truth, after like kind of looking at it, but I think the most would have to be probably Etienne. I think Tank Bigsby is still there too, right? Is he not still in that
Absolutely,
backfield? So now
absolutely.
it's a kind of a three-headed monster. I don't know if they. I'm pretty sure they declined Etienne's option, or I don't know if I'm pretty sure it came due. If not this year, next year. This is going to be his third year or fourth.
This will be his fourth year, I believe. I want to say his fourth. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it was his fourth, I'm pretty sure they declined it. So it's pretty telling drafting another running back that you're not happy with what you've got there. So I think his draft stock definitely shot down the most. But I mean, even a Jalen Warren, is he ready to take on the full workload? He was always that change of pace, pass catching back, and did really well. Yes, he obviously had good yards per carry and always high over 5 over his past 2 seasons. So, but Kaleb Johnson, we've mentioned, has that Le'Veon Bell, Arian Foster
Yes.
kind of to him. So I think he's going to push for more touches. And Scadaboo, I think, is a more complete back than Tracy, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
in the red zone, Tracy is no longer going to be the guy, I feel, with his fumble issues.
I want to say Cam Scadaboo had, and I'm going to look it up now, but I want to say he had almost 60 catches last year. So really good as a pass catcher. It's coming up right now. 45 catches, 600 yards. That is really, really good for a college back.
Yeah.
College backs, I find they're not featured in the passing game as much as they are in the NFL. So I kind of like that aspect with Scadaboo. Kaleb Johnson and Jalen Warren's interesting. Mike Tomlin's pretty old school, but correct me if I'm wrong. You keep me honest because it's your team, Nacc. But Tomlin's pretty good at giving rookie running backs a lot of carries, right? Like Najee Harris,
Najee in his first year rushed for
250
1,000 yards, and it
rush
was
for
like 350 touches or something.
exactly.
They had no one, obviously. Now it's a little bit different because they have like that Warren there. I know they signed Gainwell as well, which probably smells the end of the Cordell Patterson experiment in Pittsburgh. Thank
What a
God.
failure.
So it's a little bit different where, like even if you remember correctly, Mendenhall as well had a great
Yeah.
year one when he was drafted in the first round, another first round
Willie
running back.
Parker too,
So
no? Willie Parker, or
Willie
when
Parker was undrafted.
he was undrafted, okay.
Yeah, it was undrafted. Came on late, but he was there with Jerome Bettis.
GB, yeah.
So when Jerome Bettis needed a spell,
Yeah.
and then obviously when he got better, he became the top back. So look, he with running backs, I think Tomlin is the most like, okay, go and get it done. He's more sheltered with wide receivers,
Yes.
QBs, like very sheltered with those type of players. Both running backs, like the guy could play, like he'll play you. You know?
He always the Pittsburgh Steelers always have tough running backs, good citizens at running backs. To your point where it's they're set it and forget it type guys, and Kaleb Johnson was definitely that. I would just add, for me personally, it's Etienne. I think his stock is fully down. From a fantasy perspective, I had him in different teams. I've had him back to back years in different leagues. Very poor short yardage running back. Very,
Yeah,
very frustrating to have in short yardage. That was a bit of Tank Bigsby's issue too. They drafted Tootin, Bushel Tootin. He had the fastest 40 time among running backs at the combine, and really explosive 6.3 yards per carry, 15 TDs at the Virginia Tech last year. So if you think of Bigsby as, and it's funny, Tank Bigsby, his name's Tank, but he's actually not that bigger than
not
Bushel.
that big.
He's
No,
not that big of a guy.
no.
But I think still complements Tootin would complement Bigsby a lot more. So I would agree to Etienne. I think Etienne's days are numbered in Jacksonville. If we stay on the same wavelength in terms of veterans whose stock drop, and we look at some of the rookie wide receivers that I went in specific teams. Stephon Diggs in Houston, Nico Collins as well. Sorry, Stephon Diggs in New England, Nico Collins in Houston, and DJ Moore in Chicago. So Diggs now is going to have to face obviously Jalen Polk, Pop Douglas, and Kendrick Bourne for touches, but also they drafted the Patriots' Kyle Williams out of
Yeah.
Washington State. Nico Collins is Nico Collins, but still in Houston, they drafted Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. And DJ Moore, they drafted Luther Burden out of Mizzou in Chicago. Which of these running wide receivers, in terms of their stock, you fear a little bit, Nacc?
I think I'm gonna go with DJ Moore. Luther Burden really is the future there, and we saw that. I know you mentioned it actually today on Twitter, and I liked what you kind of wrote that. He became moody. He became kind of like not a team player type deal, and um, like
Shocking.
it is very shocking because you didn't think he was that type of dude.
He never did
Um,
that in Carolina, and look at the
no,
crap he dealt with in Carolina. It made like
no.
I was actually dumbfounded by how he played last year.
Yeah, and I feel even with the loss of, I know that they lost Keenan Allen, still a free agent, but less likely to go back to the Bears at this point. I think Odunze is going to take another step. He kind of turned it on a lot more towards the end of the year as well last season. And I think Luther Burden kind of may take over that DJ Moore type role as the season like progresses, right? And like we mentioned, he is the future. I don't know. I think Moore is the one to watch as a guy that might lose out on some touches.
I think it's more too. Burden had a really, really good 2023, 86 catches, 1,200 yards at Mizzou, 9 TDs. He took a step back last year at Missouri, but he has the same profile as DJ Moore, yards after catch. We talked a little bit about in our previous pods. He also has that kind of Debo Samuel type profile where I think in his career, he had 34 rushing attempts or 44 rushing attempts for almost 300 yards.
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of the draft analysts are saying about him. In terms of the other guys, look, Stephon Diggs in New England, I have to see it to believe it with rookie wide receivers in New
Yeah.
England. I've heard a lot of good things about Kyle Williams, 4.4 speed, deep threat that they've needed for a while. Played really well, good production at Washington State as well. So we'll have to see. But man, I've gotten burned with regards to Jalen Polk, Javon Baker that they were talking about last year. Again, Pop Douglas and Kendrick Bourne.
My God, Polk was supposed to be the second coming,
Exactly.
like the
So
steal of the draft.
yeah, yes,
Again, it's
exactly.
still first year, and it was New England kind of rebuilding, so let's give it a chance. But yeah, and I think we're probably both in agreement on this, but I don't think Nico Collins has anything to worry about at the moment.
I don't think so too. I think, and we talked a little bit about it last episode. I think the Jalen Noel pick. I mean, more so for dynasty, you want to say, but it really to me spells the end for Tank Dell.
Yeah,
They don't have that vertical field stretcher with Dell pretty much out for the year. So if there's one guy I would target between Higgins and Noel, it's definitely Noel because he could stretch the field. Higgins, the comps I saw that is that he's a basic clone of Nico Collins, 6'4", 210, 220, good speed, but ex receiver, who's just going to play on the outside. So um, definitely would target Noel on that front. Um, Moving on to the next segment, veterans whose stock rose. Between Kaleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence at the QB position, Nacc, who do you think has a higher stock going into the season?
man, this is a tough one. Um, I'm gonna say Caleb Williams only because sophomore year coming up, he's got more to prove, and they gave him two new weapons to play with in Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, as we just mentioned above. And they also upgraded the offensive line tremendously. So they're trying to keep him upright in order to give him time to throw. So pair that with the weapons, I think it's Caleb Williams, no doubt.
It's hard to argue with that. The devil's advocate in me would say Trevor Lawrence. Um, Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen has been a very good offensive mind. What Duval,
Duval.
whether it's in college, obviously with Tampa Bay, he took over for what Canales did in Tampa with Baker, and I think they took it up another level. He was also with Sean McVay a few years ago in LA as well. This is it for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, yeah.
They're they gave him Travis Hunter, obviously. Um,
Brian Thomas
Brian
Thomas
Thomas
Jr.
Jr. They're investing at the running back position. I think I don't know if they did anything at tight end as well. I think they're probably going to go with Brenton Strange. But to me,
I
this is
like him.
the yeah, I liked him too. I thought he was pretty much the same as Evan Ingram. So this is the year for Trevor Lawrence. If he doesn't show up and show out, there's going to start being some real questions. He's going to start feeling that Dak Prescott type heat
Yeah.
for a guy who just recently signed a contract and is not getting it done. So, are there any other QBs you could think of that their stock rose based off the draft? Maybe some guys who maybe were more on the fence last year in terms of like
Bryce
Kyler.
Young.
Yeah, okay. Bryce Young was a good one.
Bryce
Yeah,
Young. They got him some more weapons. I mean, I know it's going to suck that they have Brooks out. So I think they drafted another running back as well. The Panthers too, if I'm not mistaken. But they're surrounding him with weapons, right? They gave there's still like we said, there's still Thielen there. There's Leggett that they drafted last year. They drafted the top wide receiver, I guess you could say, in the class, in Ted McMillan.
they
He looked
drafted.
good down the stretch last year.
It was Trevor Etienne.
There you go, his brother. That's
Travis
that's
Etienne
that's
brother.
why I knew they drafted someone and it was familiar. But look, they gave him weapons, and last year towards the end, we were even saying it how he looked so much better after the benching, came back, had a couple slices of humble pie and came back strong, right? Then it did humble him, I think, and he kind of felt it like, yeah, man, like I got to play. He had that what was it, that 5 TD game against the Giants last year as well. So I think I'm excited to see what year three has to in store for Bryce.
If I were to just add one more, it's whoever the two-headed QB monster in Indianapolis is between Anthony Richardson and
Daniel
Daniel
Jones.
Jones. You add Tyler Warren to Josh Downs and Michael Pittman Jr. and obviously Jonathan Taylor. Tyler Warren is the type of player who safety blanket, adding on to, like, he could end up being the top option there because Downs and
That's
Pittman.
Clark style.
Yeah, exactly. Because Downs and Pittman are more, WR2s. So depending on who wins that camp battle, personally, I expect it to be Daniel Jones. But for the Colts, if it's not, and if it's Anthony Richardson, all the better. That means that he's actually shown the improvement that we need to see from him. It means that the kind of QB work that he's done with the Josh Allen QB guru to improve his accuracy has improved as well. But I thought that was one that could be interesting with the drafting of one Tyler Warren. Moving on to the next segment, sleeper rookies to know. Jalen Royals to drafted by the Chiefs. So maybe fantasy sleeper wide receiver alert. So
Huge
we
sleeper.
so we know that Rashee Rice coming off the injury, but also there's a looming suspension as well. Hollywood Brown, we have to see what comes out of that. Xavier Worthy played really well. However, he's a bit of a kind of bit player in terms of is he just going to run more vertical routes? Is he going to only handle handoffs? So what are your thoughts on Jalen Royals, Nacc?
He's explosive. He's fast. I think I guess they're trying to get every single track star on this team lately, but yeah, I think he is going to be come in and potentially work his way to that WR1 status on the team. I think you said it perfectly. Yes, Rashee Rice is that guy, but he was injured and there is that looming suspension coming, so you never know. And they're going to need a guy to step up. I don't think, like you mentioned, it's Xavier Worthy. He's not that prototypical WR1 on the team. I still see him having a solid season in continuance of his first year, which was pretty solid. But yeah, this guy has all the attributes to kind of come in there and maybe do that as well. Maybe come in and be the WR1, especially early on in the season.
WR1. Woo.
On the team,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
not fantasy wise, not top 10 fantasy, but
So
on the team.
so there's two things with Royals I really like. One, good zone player. And we know how important it is for Mahomes to have a target that knows how to sit in zones because he faces so much zone. Everyone's afraid of Mahomes' deep ball. The second thing with Royals is no one in NCAA had more receptions of 50 plus yards over the past two seasons.
Wow.
So not only can he play the underneath game, which we're seeing how Mahomes and Rashee Rice, and obviously how he does with Travis Kelce, but he could bring that kind of Tyreek Hill and even Xavier Worthy type element, home
home
run
run hitting.
element that
Yeah.
the Chiefs, it really feels that they've been lacking. So curious to see as well. Again, all this is super early, right? We're gonna have to see what happens. Mini camps,
Yeah.
training camps, how the official depth charts look initially to see where do these guys really go in fantasy. But kind of this is like a quick a quick view in terms of where we see things. Late round running backs, RJ Harvey to Denver, Jaden Blue to Dallas. So RJ Harvey was someone we talked about in our running back draft preview. Really explosive player, productive player as well. He was a 3-year starter, I believe, at I'm gonna pull up now at UCF, and he had a 22 touchdown season. So obviously the production is there. And what I've been reading about him is that, especially with regards to Sean Payton and the Broncos seemed like they had opportunities to move up in the draft if they wanted to, maybe get a Genty or maybe get an Omari and Hampton. And from everything I've read so far, is they were very happy with Harvey. They took Harvey, I believe, in the second round, and a lot of projections had him either in the third or fourth round. So they absolutely got the guy they wanted. He back-to-back seasons of 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns in 2023, 22 touchdowns in 2024. good pass catcher as well. And if you look at the kind of the competition he has, it's really porous. Like
Yep.
I would not be surprised if he goes into week one as the bona fide starter. Audric Estime, decent player, but he's a bit of a plotter. Jaleel McLaughlin, Sean Payton loves his small running backs that could catch the ball, but RJ Harvey is a small running back who could catch the ball as well. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on RJ Harvey, Nacc, but I really think this guy could
He's
be a sleeper.
And it's funny because he is a smaller running back, but he has insane vision and he's very physical back for a small back. And I think that's the type of back that, like you mentioned, Sean Payton was looking for. I think this is an excellent fit. And as you mentioned, I know they got him in the second round, and a lot of people had, like Kaleb Johnson ahead of him, had some other guys ahead of RJ Harvey. Even with us, I think we had him as the seventh guy
We
or
had
the
this
sixth
as a
guy.
we had seventh or
Yeah,
eighth guy in our yeah.
seventh running back. So look, that's why we're not scouts, and that's why these guys know what they're doing. I think they got a great one. And another person, Kyle Brandt's favorite, Mr. Cam Scatabo. I know we talked about him a little bit earlier, but I think great value pick for the Giants. Like I said before, Tyrone Chase, he looked good, but struggled a lot with fumbles. So that's not something you want to see. I think Cam Scatabo can come in and he's like that blue collar
Yeah.
running back type guy. He would have made a great Steeler to
Blue
Mr.
collar.
Scatabo.
Do you want to like a coach's son, blue collar, nuts and bolts guy? Well, I wonder why do you say that, Nacc?
He's a worker, man. He works. He works hard. He works for every inch. He is that.
I said it. I said it. The biggest service anyone can make is compare this guy to a white running back. He's tough as nails. I think
Yeah,
he's
man.
faster than what he shows. I think he has better feet than what he shows. And as a Giants fan, I'm ecstatic to have him. I'm pretty juiced actually for the Giants draft. I'm not gonna lie. I might actually be back on the bandwagon. Quickly, I
He's
want to talk.
back.
He's back. I
Wow,
want to
you're
talk.
saying that. You're saying that with Fab not on the pod today.
We've been tweeting about it. You weren't included in those tweets. I'm
Oh,
sorry, but
thank you.
we,
Thank
we
you.
didn't. It was a no hate tweet fest. No
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 hate tweet
giant
fest.
no Giants hate tweet fest. Quickly, I want to touch on Jaden Blue. I thought this is a good value running back, good value pick at running back, fifth round for the Dallas Cowboys. So Blue played 3 years at the running back factory in Texas. We know how well they do in terms of running backs. And the Cowboys have been quite good at drafting backs recently. Obviously, Rico Dowdle, he was drafted, and they kind of let go of him afterwards. But thought he had a really productive year. And if you look at the competition that he has, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Blue, really good profile where he ran a 4.38 at the combine, 1.5 to 10-yard split. So his athleticism score was actually in the top percentile of running backs. So Nacc, a guy you could take a flyer on? Are you a bit too concerned that he's clearly third in the depth chart right now?
That backfield's too crowded, and it's crowded with like nobodies. So he's going to be either a really late round, like last round dart throw, where you use like the draft the round before you draft your kicker, or in your case when you don't draft a kicker at all. Um, he's probably going to be a fab guy, man. Like a waiver wire. Like I don't see him drafted. There's just too many people on the pecking order, even if they're not like whoa. Like there's no way Dallas can go into the season starting Blue or even putting him second on the depth chart. I think at this point the running back situation is bleak, and I think they need some names to start the year. I don't see him hopping anything right off the bat.
The only reason I like this is the pedigree. Like Texas running backs are typically very good. Um,
I'm
like
surprised
you
it took him that long to kind of address the position, though. Seeing what the running back room looked like.
look like a lot of people were crapping on their draft. This is what the Cowboys do. They take interior players and they take a lot of defensive players in the draft. And we'll talk about it next episode. But it's very interesting that they also didn't take a wide receiver. That's very, very telling.
Wild.
Pretty wild, but also like what else is
Well, they
down the
were
pike for them?
apparently they were after George Pickens via trade, and obviously that didn't materialize.
Yeah,
But they tried to go after
yes.
someone.
So there's that fact. The fact that, again, to your point, they didn't maybe trade up for running back as well. Does it show confidence in Javonte Williams? The fact they took Tyler Booker, guard, Alabama, in the as their first pick. So I think we'll have to see, but I think your assessment on that running back room, it's more of a wait and see on that room. Um, Maybe just some quick hitters in terms of sleepers to know about. Trey Harris to the Chargers. This was a fantastic get. I think Trey Harris had a very good year. I believe it was this year. He was 1,300 yard wide receiver at Ole Miss. No, 1,000 yard wide receiver to Ole Miss. Pretty much last 2 seasons. We'll have to see where he plays because they have a crowded wide receiver room with Mike Williams,
Hmm.
Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston. Um, I thought the bringing back of Mike Williams was really interesting.
Weird.
Maybe very weird. Maybe it was more insurance, and they probably didn't think that Harris was going to get to their lap in the second round. But if he breaks out, I think this could be a very interesting running wide receiver room. Excuse me. And then Pat Bryant.
I think he pushes Quinton Johnson to the outside looking in because he's physical, and I feel like he's an NFL ready wide receiver, like come in and kind of and win those reps on the outside, especially by midseason. I feel like Johnson, if he still can't continue to catch, like
They have that's a really good point. They have too many guys who can't really be malleable to play inside. Only Ladd McConkey could really play inside. You saw Mike Williams with the Steelers, right?
he
He
can't
is
play inside.
I don't know if he could play, period. But the Chargers felt the need to bring him back. So I agree with you on that assessment. I think Quentin Johnson might be the odd man out, but he was a first rounder, I believe.
Yep,
So
he was.
I think they got to be a bit patient with him. Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant. Fab mentioned Pat Bryant. Honestly, I have not heard much about him, but Sean Payton seemed very, very intrigued about Bryant. And look, if you look at the Denver Broncos wide receiver room, Cortland Sutton, aside from that, Devon Vele, Marvin Mims, I think there could be an opportunity for him to show up, but that's kind of another situation where it's interesting. You would have thought maybe they took a wide receiver a bit earlier, but they felt that the room is good. So along with Evan Ingram, we'll see what that passing attack looks like
Yeah.
with Bo Nix. Any other fantasy sleepers from the draft, or stock up, stuck down guys you think of, Nacc, as we wrap things up?
Stock up, stock down, as in guys who are like current on the team that stock may have gone down, or
Yeah,
it's kind of crowded in that Tampa Bay wide receiver room right now. I don't know what that's going to look like in terms of feeding mouths, especially you still got, Bucky Irving who's back there, who's going to command some touches. Very strange pick I found. And I know it was great value, but man, you got Godwin there that kind of plays the same position. You still have Mike Williams there. I don't
interesting.
I don't know.
Jalen McMillan.
McMillan too. Yeah, you're
Mm,
right. They had
So
McMillan there too. So it was a I think it was like a luxury pick you didn't need at that position. So I think the stock goes down kind of all around, if you're asking me, because how are you going to get all these guys in the field at every play? You can't.
I think Mike Evans is the one that it's very hard to say stock down for him, but I think I'm curious what it tells us about Chris Godwin's health. I'm curious what it tells us about Jalen McMillan's
But they just
progression.
signed him to 3 years, so there's got to be his health has got to be pretty
You're right.
okay,
You're right.
right? Like I don't think they would have signed him to that much if it wasn't.
I also think the way the Tampa Bay Bucks operate, a lot of the players on that team have been there for a long time. Like, I don't think there's a team in the NFL that has better retention in terms of like kind of the core guys. Like
mm,
Levante David is still there. Like obviously Chris Godwin, Mike Evans is still
Antoine
there.
Winfield.
Antoine Winfield. Those guys, they really, if you're a Buck, you're a Buck for life. So that's a good one for sure. So we'll wrap things up here. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. So this is kind of like part one of our post-draft recap. We'll talk again about the draft and fantasy implications next week. We'll have Fab back as well. Nacc, very good job. It was good. I think two man pick and roll was really solid.
2-man pick and roll. Yeah, it was solid. Miss you though, Fab. We miss you.
We miss you, Fab, for sure, but it's good practice for when Fab is going to be traveling all over Europe this summer and also for his honeymoon eventually. So thank you so much. As usual, follow us on, I was going to say Facebook. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Apple Podcast, TikTok, Instagram. On behalf of Nacc, I'm Raj, and we will see you next time.
Let's go.
100 men versus one gorilla.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna test it out.
Oh, I'm gonna watch.
Someone's gonna test it out for
I'm
sure.
definitely gonna watch those poor souls in the front. Those poor like first few that got started up.
Honestly, it makes me want to play Donkey Kong now.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Go Leafs, go.
Goodbye. Ugh.